Today I'm going to be doing a side-by-side comparison of these two classic off-roaders, the Toyota FJ Cruiser and the Hummer H3. The Toyota FJ Cruiser was introduced to the US market for the 2007 model year and pays tribute to the original Toyota FJ40, shares its underpinnings with the Toyota 4Runner and the Lexus GX470. The FJ Cruiser was discontinued in the US market after the 2014 model year, although it's still sold in some other foreign markets. The H3 was introduced for the 2006 model year and likewise pays tribute to the original H1 in terms of styling. The vehicle shares its underpinnings with the Chevy Colorado and the GMC Canyon pickups, although it's been reinforced for heavy off-road use. The model was also sold in pickup form for the 2009 and 2010 model year, and the H3 was discontinued along with the rest of the Hummer brand after 2010. In terms of styling, both of these vehicles have a very unique, rugged look to them. We'll start by doing a quick walk around of the H3, and then we'll jump over to the FJ. With the H3 paying tribute to that original H1, it's most noticeable on the front end here. It's got your classic Hummer front grille design with the 7-slot grille, the circular headlights, and then the square side lights. Of course, this is all chrome, and then we've got integrated fog lights down below, and the Hummer lettering is embossed in the bumper. Also got these heavy-duty toe shackles on either side, and you'll see that the front bumper is very conducive to off-road driving. Up on the hood, it's got this little element as well as these bulges on both the driver and passenger side. In both cases, they're not really functional, but they do give it a pretty cool look. Likewise, this front windshield design has a very vertical shape to it, similar to what you would see in that H1. On the side of the vehicle, likewise, you'll see that these side windows are very short in this vertical dimension, giving it a pretty cool illusion inside and out. Got very aggressive front and rear fenders bulging out from the bodywork, again giving it a very aggressive look. This model is equipped with a set of aftermarket wheels and tires as well as side steps. You'll see we've got our side antenna here and another antenna up top for the OnStar system. We've got our GM emblem here on the front fender, and then the H3 logo down below. And then our side mirrors have a pretty unique design to them. They are quite large, which is good for visibility, given that there are a lot of blind spots with the H3. Nice bulky door handles. And then coming around to the back, it's got a pretty simple design here, very flat look to it. Got these tall rectangular tail lights, again kind of matching what you see in the H2. Rear mounted spare tire. Another toe shackle over here on the passenger side, tow package down below, and then license plate is mounted over here on the driver's side. This door does swing out sideways from the driver's side. And then you'll see we've also got our fuel tank over here on the driver's side with kind of a vintage look to it. All around a pretty cool design on the H3. Likewise, the FJ Cruiser's got a very unique look to it. Start again up at the front. This is where the heritage to that FJ40 is most noticeable, again with this grille design. It's got the Toyota lettering, and then you'll see this whole grille and headlight element is kind of bulging out from the bodywork, giving it a little bit of that vintage look. Likewise, this bumper design has kind of a vintage look to it. It is worth noting that the grille guard's been added aftermarket along with the side steps. Side profile of the FJ, again, is very unique. Most unique thing is that our rear door is a suicide door. So we've got hinges at the back, and then we've got high strength steel to avoid the need for a pillar here in the middle. This all results in kind of a unique look because you'll see our window line here comes back and then it drops down, and this rear window is sitting at a lower height, so it gives it kind of a unique look. Likewise, the two-tone color configuration between the body and the roof gives it a unique appearance. You'll see we've got these plastic fender flares at the front and rear, as well as a little bit of plastic down below and integrated mud flaps. Just as we saw in the H3, very bulky door handles and a unique mirror design. It's cool that on the FJ it's got these integrated lights. Up top we've got a very heavy-duty roof rack as well. It's got a cool look to it with the tubular steel. And then coming around to the back, again, these taillights have that vintage look where they're bulging out from the bodywork. Once again, we get a rear-mounted spare tire, and just like the H3, the door swings out from the driver's side. Again, we've got the tow package, a couple parking sensors, and then our license plate, in this case, is mounted on the passenger side. So both really cool looking designs, very unique in their own rights. I'd say that with the FJ, it's got kind of a more funky vintage look, whereas the H3 has kind of that more rugged utilitarian look. Looking inside the FJ Cruiser, you'll see that it's got a pretty nice interior design. Definitely a very unique look to it. A little bit vintage with good fit and finish and a nice level of standard options and features. Although this model is fully loaded, so it doesn't come quite as heavily loaded as what you can get with the H3. We do get power windows, power door locks, power mirrors, audio controls on the steering wheel. Instrument cluster's got a nice attractive look to it. Got a compartment up here on the dashboard. Center dash, we've got a couple gauges, compass on the left, temperature gauge in the middle, inclinometer on the right, a couple vents down below, clock in the middle, audio system below that with AM/FM radio, satellite radio, CD player, and you can also connect using auxiliary connection. Climate control below with heat and air conditioning, traction control, locking rear differential, 8-track traction control system, subwoofer. We've got a power inverter in the rear, parking sensors, 12-volt outlet, and auxiliary connection. Cup holder, lever for the 4-wheel drive system, gear shifter, emergency brake, another cup holder, and a little storage compartment. Also got a self-dimming rear view mirror. And then to get to the rear seat, again, we've got the suicide door here, and space back here is not terrible, though not as spacious as the H3. You see you've got cup holder and storage space down below, and these seats do fold down in a 60-40 split. Pull up the seat bottom here, and we've got a button up here that you can push to drop these down to further increase that rear cargo area. You can also drop down headrests here to get those to sit flat. And then coming around to the rear, you see it's pretty spacious back here. Good level of cargo space. Got a little compartment in here with some storage space. Got the factory subwoofer, and we've got a little power outlet down below. Looking inside the H3, you'll see that likewise it's got a pretty nice interior, although it's not quite as unique as what you get with the FJ Cruiser. Looks very similar to the Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon counterparts. Although the H3 is available with a nicer suite of available luxury and tech features. This model is a little bit more of a base model. We do get power windows, power door locks, and power mirrors. Instrument cluster's got a nice look. Controls for our 4-wheel drive system up here on the dash. Traction control on the right-hand side. This model is equipped with an aftermarket audio system, and then our backup camera is also integrated with that screen. Climate control down below with heat and air conditioning, rear windshield wiper, 2 12-volt outlets over here on the other side, a little storage space down below, gear shifter, 2 cup holders, center armrest opens up and we've got a little bit of storage space inside. And then up on our mirror, self-dimming with a compass, and OnStar is integrated as well. Looking into the rear seat of the H3, you'll see we've definitely got more legroom here than the FJ Cruiser. And of course, access is quite a bit easier because we've got a separate door. Center seat bottom here, got 2 cup holders, and then these seats do fold up in a 60-40 split to further increase the rear cargo area. Coming around to the back, again, we've got the side swinging door, and inside cargo space is pretty good. Got storage compartments on both the driver and passenger side, and a 12-volt outlet. And then we've also got the jack stored here in a hatch on the rear swinging door. In terms of off-road ability, both of these vehicles are incredibly capable. They're not just about appearances, and I'm going to go through a few numbers to offer a comparison between the two models. Starting off with the front approach angle, which basically tells us how well the vehicle can go from a flat surface to a steep incline. On the FJ Cruiser, it's got a 34-degree front approach angle, which is pretty good, although not as good as the 37.4 degrees that we see on the H3. You'll see that the H3 bumper's got this nice cutout right here, giving us good access to that tire. So that really helps it to maximize that angle. Next up, we've got breakover angle, which is kind of a combination of wheelbase and ground clearance, and tells us how well the vehicle can climb over objects. On the H3, it's got a 22.1 degree breakover angle, FJ's got the advantage here at 27.4 degrees, not all that surprising given the shorter wheelbase on the FJ. And then lastly, we've got rear departure angle, which is kind of the opposite of front approach. If we're going down a steep grade and we hit a flat surface, it tells us how well it's going to be able to make that transition. On the FJ Cruiser, pretty good at 30 degrees, but not as good as the 34.7 degree rear departure angle that we get on the H3. Next up, as far as ground clearance goes, the two vehicles are pretty much a wash. The H3's got the slight advantage here at 9.7 inches compared with 9.6 inches on the FJ. And then the FJ is also able to ford through 27.5 inches of standing water, whereas the H3 is rated for 27 inches. FJ is available in rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, whereas the H3 comes standard with four-wheel drive. On four-wheel drive models of each, they've got a 2-speed transfer case with a low range option, and then both models also come with intelligent traction control systems, which are able to apply braking to limit wheel spin. And then on the FJ Cruiser, we've got the availability of a locking rear differential, and certain years of the Trail Teams Edition also have multi-terrain select with crawl control. On the H3, likewise, it's got the availability of a locking rear differential. It's also got the availability of a locking front differential. The FJ Cruiser has a 4-liter V6 and in early years offered single variable valve timing with 239 horsepower and 278 pound-feet of torque. In 2010, we get dual variable valve timing, and those numbers are revised to 259 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque, and we see an improvement in fuel efficiency. In 2011, we again see a slight revision to 260 horsepower and 271 pound-feet of torque. The FJ Cruiser was offered in rear-wheel drive or with a part-time or full-time four-wheel drive system. Rear-wheel drive models are paired to a 5-speed automatic transmission, and in early years we see an EPA rating of 17 miles per gallon in the city and 21 miles per gallon on the highway. 2010 and newer models see that highway mileage increase to 22. Part-time four-wheel drive models are likewise paired to that 5-speed automatic transmission, and in early years we see an EPA rating of 15 miles per gallon in the city and 19 miles per gallon on the highway. 2010 and newer models see that increase to 17 miles per gallon in the city and 21 miles per gallon on the highway. And then the full-time four-wheel drive models are paired to a 6-speed manual transmission, and in early years saw an EPA rating of 15 miles per gallon in the city and 18 miles per gallon on the highway. Later years that increases to 16 in the city and 20 on the highway. Max tow capacity on the FJ Cruiser is 5,000 pounds and the 0 to 60 time is 7.2 seconds. Now jumping over to the H3, when it first came out it offered a 3.5 liter inline 5-cylinder with 220 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque. Saw an EPA rating of 14 miles per gallon in the city and 18 miles per gallon on the highway. In 2007, that 3.5 is replaced with this 3.7 liter inline 5-cylinder, which offers 242 horsepower and 242 pound-feet of torque. In 2009, those numbers are revised slightly to 239 horsepower and 241 pound-feet of torque, and we see an EPA rating of 13 to 14 miles per gallon in the city and 18 miles per gallon on the highway. In 2008, they also added the Alpha model, which has a 5.3 liter V8 with 300 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. That model sees an EPA rating of 13 miles per gallon in the city and 16 miles per gallon on the highway. The H3 comes with a 4-speed automatic transmission, or you have the option of a 5-speed manual. With the 5-cylinder models, max tow capacity ranges from 3,000 to 6,000 pounds, and 0 to 60 time ranges from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. Well, the H3 is pretty nice to drive. It's a very smooth ride. It's very comfortable. For a vehicle that's very capable off-road, it's actually, pretty impressive all around in terms of drivability. I will say that I'm not real crazy about the 5-cylinder that you get. I definitely would kind of lean toward the 5.3 liter V8 if I were going to get into an H3, but of course the downside to that is the fuel economy. So kind of a difficult trade-off in that sense, because neither model is really all that fuel efficient, and certainly this one's not all that powerful. That aside though, again, still pretty nice vehicle to drive. I will say that the blind spots in this and the FJ Cruiser are pretty bad. When you're changing lanes or backing up, it's pretty hard to see much of what's going on around you. One thing that I'll also say I'm not real crazy about with the H3 is just kind of the feel in terms of quality. It definitely feels like a kind of cheaper quality product than what you get with, say, the H2. This interior is pretty much copy and pasted from the Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon from this era, and so it kind of loses a little bit of that personality or uniqueness that you expect in a vehicle like this. You certainly get it in the exterior styling, but then when it comes to the interior, it's just a little bit on the plain side. And then just in terms of quality, it feels a little bit cheap, especially when compared with the FJ. Fit and finish isn't quite as good. The quality materials isn't as impressive. Nothing terrible about it, but definitely not on par with the FJ in that sense. From just a day-to-day use standpoint, I do feel like the H3 has the advantage over the FJ. Of course, one of the main things is the rear doors. As much as that's kind of a unique styling characteristic on the FJ, it's not quite as practical, and it is kind of a pain when you're stuck in the back seat and you can't get out because the front doors have to be opened first. Likewise, this vehicle is just going to be a little bit more spacious, more comfortable, especially for those rear passengers. It's got more cargo space, and just kind of overall, it's got kind of a more normal feel to it than what you get with the FJ. Well, like the H3, for a vehicle that's very capable off-road, the FJ is actually still a pretty nice vehicle to drive. It's pretty smooth, comfortable, quiet, and it certainly is a vehicle that would work as a daily driver. And I will say that overall, in terms of ride quality, I actually don't think that it's quite as good as what you get with the H3. The suspension is incredibly soft on the FJ, and so it kind of feels like it's sort of bouncing around all over the place. And then I think also maybe because of the shorter wheelbase, you're noticing a little bit more in terms of imperfections on the road than you would with the H3. It's not a substantial difference, but it definitely does exist. Now, as I mentioned, overall in terms of like the quality of the interior, I think that the FJ is definitely much better than what you get with the H3. I think that the design just has a really unique look to it to go along with the outside, but likewise the quality of the materials is much higher, the accent colors are better, and just overall the fit and finish is just at a higher level than what you see with the H3. Certainly from a day-to-day use, the H3, like I said, also has some advantages. The rear seat in this is definitely a lot more cramped, although it's bigger than you would expect given the size of the smaller suicide doors. The other thing about the FJ2 is that the blind spots are definitely worse in this than what you get with the H3. Neither vehicle is good in that sense. At least these windows are a little bit tall in that vertical dimension, but still you've got some really severe blockage behind that rear door window as well as at the back. So there's definitely some shortcomings in that sense. It's not terrible. I mean, the mirrors help to make up for it, and as long as you're cautious, it's not awful, but it's not great either. The other thing too is that with the H3 you get that backup camera that's in that center infotainment screen, so it's a decent size. On the FJ, it's up here on the mirror in this upper little corner, and so it's a pretty small backup screen and you can't really see very much when you're backing up. The quality likewise is pretty bad. Now, although the 4-liter V6 that you get in the FJ isn't especially powerful, it does feel much more suited to the vehicle than the 3.5-liter 5-cylinder or the 3.7-liter 5-cylinder that are available on the H3. So I think that overall this powertrain is definitely better. You're getting better fuel efficiency, it's quicker. Tow capacity is not as good, but overall, again, I feel like it's better suited. Of course, the availability of that 5.3-liter V8 on the H3 is definitely an advantage. It would be kind of cool if there were some more powerful options available on the FJ, but in general, the 4-liter V6 is plenty adequate. So the H3 offers better ride quality, and it's going to be the more practical option for day-to-day use, but I still like the FJ Cruiser more, primarily because I like the look of this interior. It's got that unique look to go along with the exterior style. Likewise, I think that the quality of it is much higher, and then I also feel like the powertrain on this vehicle finds a sweet spot more than what you get with the 5 cylinders or the 8 cylinders on the H3. So that's a look at the Toyota FJ Cruiser and the Hummer H3. Two other things that I want to talk about real quick are reliability and value. In terms of reliability, chances are that the FJ Cruiser will be the more reliable option, although with the H3, since it's based off the Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon pickup, which are both mainstream vehicles, my guess is that the reliability would be pretty decent on the H3 as well. In terms of value, when these vehicles were new, they were very similarly priced. FJ Cruiser's definitely held its value better over that time period. But now that the H3 has already taken that initial depreciation hit, you can get into an H3 for a much more reasonable price than the FJ Cruiser. And my guess is that both of these vehicles will be long-term classics, so I wouldn't expect that the H3 is going to take much more of a depreciation hit going forward. In that sense, I think that an H3 is a really great option if you're looking to get into a classic off-road SUV at a reasonable price. If you have any comments on the FJ Cruiser or the H3, leave them in the section below. For more car reviews, be sure to subscribe. In the meantime, thanks for watching.